Have you ever noticed how, after turning 70, some people seem to fade from your social circle, or maybe you found yourself stepping back from visits you once enjoyed? It's not always about loneliness or bitterness. It's often a quiet, profound shift in how we choose to spend our time. In this video, we're diving into 6 powerful reasons why many older adults stop visiting others after 70, revealing insights that go beyond health or convenience to uncover deep emotional and psychological wisdom. You need to watch until the end because these reasons will not only help you understand this natural evolution but may also inspire you to embrace your journey with pride and clarity, whether you're navigating it yourself or seeking to connect with someone who is. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you like this video. You can help me continue to spread the old age lesson. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like this video, please comment number 1. If you don't like it, comment number 0 to let me know, so I can make a better video for you. Now let's get started. Number 1. Emotional boundaries. As individuals cross the threshold of 70, one of the most profound realizations they often encounter is the critical importance of establishing and maintaining emotional boundaries. Aging brings with it a heightened awareness of the emotional energy required by social interactions, an aspect of life that may not have been as noticeable in younger years. What might once have been anticipated as simple physical exhaustion after a day of socializing, perhaps from travel, standing for long periods, or keeping up with a lively crowd, now reveals itself as something deeper: emotional depletion. Conversations that once felt light-hearted and invigorating can, over time, become burdensome, weighed down by repetitive complaints, unresolved conflicts, or one-sided exchanges where your thoughts and feelings are overlooked. This emotional drain is subtle but powerful. You might leave a visit with a friend or family member expecting to feel refreshed, reconnected, or uplifted, only to find yourself mentally and emotionally exhausted instead. For instance, imagine spending an afternoon with someone who dominates the conversation with grievances about their life, engages in petty dramas, or talks incessantly without pausing to inquire about your own experiences or well-being. These interactions, once tolerable, can begin to feel like an assault on your emotional reserves. Over time, it becomes clear that not every social engagement nourishes your spirit. Some do the opposite. They sap your energy, leaving you feeling hollow rather than whole. This realization often prompts a significant shift in perspective. Contrary to what others might assume, that withdrawing from certain relationships is a sign of frailty, disinterest, or the inevitable decline of aging, the truth is far more empowering. After 70, many individuals become more discerning about where they invest their emotional energy. This isn't about selfishness or cutting people off. It's about survival and self-preservation in the most profound sense. Emotional boundaries become a lifeline, a way to protect your inner peace and mental well-being in a season of life where both are increasingly precious. In earlier decades, societal expectations often emphasized pleasing others, being polite, attending events out of obligation, or maintaining relationships even when they feel draining. We're taught to prioritize others' needs, to show up with a smile, to suppress discomfort for the sake of harmony. But aging brings a kind of unlearning, a liberation from these ingrained habits. It teaches that protecting your emotional space isn't rude or unkind. It's a healthy and necessary act of self-care, especially for those who have spent decades putting others first. This shift reflects significant psychological growth, a move toward authenticity and self-awareness that younger years may not have afforded. Consider the story of Paul, an 82-year-old man who, for years, faithfully visited his brother's home every other Sunday. These visits, once a cherished ritual, gradually became a source of distress. Conversations inevitably spiraled into heated arguments about politics, unresolved family grievances, or painful memories from the past. Each visit left Paul feeling anxious, angry, and emotionally unraveled, requiring hours, or even days, to recover his equilibrium. One day, Paul made a quiet but resolute decision. He stopped going. His brother was confused, even offended, but for Paul, the choice was clear. He recognized that his peace of mind was more valuable than adhering to a tradition that no longer served him. This wasn't about rejecting family. It was about acknowledging that even familial ties don't justify sacrificing emotional health. Setting emotional boundaries also involves recognizing when a relationship has become one-sided or transactional. As we age, we become more attuned to subtle cues. The friend who seems distracted during your time together, checking their phone or glancing away. The relative who expects your presence but offers little in the way of genuine connection. These moments create a growing awareness of being tolerated rather than truly valued, a distinction that becomes harder to ignore with age. Instead of pouring energy into relationships that feel lopsided, many older adults begin to prioritize those that are mutually uplifting, connections that leave both parties feeling seen, heard, and enriched. This shift isn't about harboring resentment or severing ties with malice. It's about honoring your emotional well-being with the same care you'd give to a physical ailment. Just as you wouldn't force yourself to walk 5 miles on a sprained ankle, you learn not to subject your heart to interactions that leave it bruised or burdened. For many after 70, this realization is a gift, a permission slip to stop showing up in spaces that no longer feel like home, emotionally or otherwise. It's a powerful act of self-respect, one that prioritizes inner peace over external expectations and allows for a richer, more intentional life. Number 2. Time revaluation. Another profound shift that often accompanies aging is a redefinition of how time is valued and spent. In younger years, time can feel abundant, almost infinite. You might spend entire afternoons at family gatherings, linger in lengthy conversations with neighbors out of politeness, or attend events simply because it's expected, all with the unconscious assumption that there will always be more time to spare. But as one crosses into their 70s, a subtle yet seismic shift occurs. Time begins to feel finite, precious, and deeply personal. Each moment becomes a currency that you're no longer willing to spend carelessly. This isn't about becoming selfish or withdrawing from the world. Rather, it's about recognizing the true weight of each hour and choosing to invest it in ways that feel meaningful and fulfilling. Every moment spent in the company of others is a moment not spent on your healing, rest, or joy. At this stage of life, you become acutely aware that there are only so many mornings left to savor a quiet cup of coffee, only so many evenings to watch the sunset, only so many hours to read a cherished book or hum a favorite tune. This awareness isn't morbid, it's empowering. It invites a deliberate curation of how time is spent, prioritizing what replenishes your spirit over what depletes it. For example, consider Lorraine, a 76-year-old woman who, for decades, made a monthly 3-hour drive to visit her cousin. Their time together wasn't unpleasant. They'd share a meal, watch familiar TV shows, and catch up on family news. But over time, Lorraine began to notice that these visits no longer sparked the joy they once did. The conversations felt routine, the connection less vibrant, and the 6-hour round trip began to feel like a significant sacrifice. One day, she reflected on what those hours could mean elsewhere, perhaps spent sketching by the lake, a passion she'd long neglected. When she made the choice to prioritize those moments of personal fulfillment, she felt lighter, more alive, and more connected to herself. It wasn't about rejecting her cousin. It was about honoring her own time and what it could offer her in this season of life. This revaluation of time reflects a form of maturity that's rarely discussed but profoundly significant. It's the ability to say, no, thank you, to invitations or obligations that don't align with your priorities, and to do so without guilt. It's about recognizing that every choice to say yes to one thing is a no to something else, perhaps something that matters more deeply to your heart. This shift allows older adults to curate their lives with intention, much like an artist selecting colors for a canvas. Moments that don't serve their peace or purpose are gently set aside, while those that bring joy, meaning, or connection are embraced wholeheartedly. This approach to time isn't about isolation or cutting people out of your life. It's about creating space for relationships and activities that feel reciprocal and enriching. It's about choosing depth over obligation, presence over performance. By redefining what their time is worth, many seniors find a renewed sense of agency, crafting a life that reflects their truest desires and values in a way that feels both liberating and deeply authentic. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Number 3. Emotional drain. One of the most compelling reasons older adults may choose to limit certain social visits after 70 is the recognition of emotional drain and the courage to act on it. This isn't about becoming antisocial or withdrawing from meaningful connections. It's about being emotionally honest with oneself. In younger years, many people tolerate interactions that feel draining. Small talk that goes nowhere, gossip that grates, or subtle power dynamics that leave you feeling diminished. But with age comes a thinning of tolerance for such emotional clutter, replaced by a clarity that prioritizes inner peace over social performance. Emotional drain often manifests in subtle ways. It's not always about dramatic conflicts or overt negativity. More often, it's the quiet exhaustion that follows interactions that feel shallow, repetitive, or disconnected from who you've become. You might spend an afternoon nodding along to conversations about topics that no longer resonate, or listening to someone recount the same stories without engaging with your own. When you leave, you don't feel energized or connected. You feel depleted, as though a piece of your emotional vitality has been siphoned away. This kind of fatigue is often misunderstood by others. Friends or family might interpret your withdrawal as aloofness, irritability, or a loss of vitality. But the reality is far different. You're not losing your spark, you're reclaiming it. You've outgrown the need to perform for others, to fill silences with polite chatter, or to justify your need for space. This shift aligns with what psychologists call emotional selectivity theory, which suggests that as people age, they prioritize relationships and interactions that are emotionally meaningful over those that feel obligatory or superficial. The result is a deliberate focus on depth, authenticity, and mutual respect in relationships, and a willingness to let go of those that no longer serve your emotional well-being. Take Harold, a 74-year-old man who used to attend weekly family gatherings with his extended relatives. For years, he showed up dutifully, even though the visits often left him feeling invisible. Conversations revolved around boasting about new purchases, rehashing old dramas, or talking over one another, with little room for genuine connection. No one asked Harold about his life, his thoughts, or his experiences. Eventually, he stopped attending, not out of anger, but out of a quiet act of self-respect. He began spending those hours gardening, reading, or walking with a close friend who truly listened. The result? Harold felt more grounded, more present, and more emotionally fulfilled than he had in years. This choice to step away from draining interactions is a form of emotional wisdom that comes with age. It's the recognition that your energy is finite and that you don't have to give it away to people or situations that don't value it. It's the understanding that solitude can be more nourishing than forced connection, and that choosing emotional peace over social obligation isn't selfish, it's survival. By listening to the inner voice that signals when an interaction feels depleting, older adults can craft a life that prioritizes emotional health, fostering connections that uplift and letting go of those that diminish. This is not just a coping mechanism. It's a powerful act of self-awareness and maturity, one that allows for a richer, more intentional way of living. Number 4. Physical energy. As you enter your 70s and beyond, one of the most profound and often unexpected changes is the transformation in your physical energy. No one warns you that even the most routine activities, running errands, visiting a friend, or attending a community event, can begin to feel like a full-scale expedition requiring meticulous planning, execution, and recovery. What was once a simple outing in your 40s or 50s, like grabbing coffee with a friend or attending a family barbecue, now demands a careful assessment of your stamina, physical comfort, and recovery time. This shift isn't a sign of weakness or decline. It's a natural evolution of the body's needs, signaling that your energy is now a limited and precious resource that deserves respect and intentional management. Imagine waking up on a Saturday morning, excited about a lunch date with a close friend. You take time to prepare. You choose an outfit that feels good, perhaps a favorite sweater that boosts your confidence. You pack a thoughtful gesture, a homemade dessert, a small bouquet from your garden, or a card to brighten their day. You leave the house with optimism, ready to enjoy a few hours of connection. But by the time you return home, your body tells a different story. Your legs feel heavy, your lower back aches from sitting too long, and a wave of fatigue settles in. The outing was pleasant, but the physical toll is undeniable. You might need the rest of the day, or even the next, to rest and recharge. This is the reality of physical energy after 70. Every activity has a cost, and that cost is measured not just in the moment but in the recovery time that follows. This change in stamina reflects a deeper physiological truth. As we age, the body's energy reserves diminish. Muscle mass naturally decreases, joints become less forgiving, and the cardiovascular system works harder to sustain activity. A 2-hour visit to a friend's house might require the same energy expenditure as a full day's work did in your younger years. Recovery times lengthen too. What used to take an hour of rest might now require an afternoon or a full day of quiet. This isn't a failure of will or strength. It's the body's way of asking for greater care and respect. From a psychological perspective, this phenomenon is often described as embodied wisdom, the body's innate intelligence, honed over decades, that communicates its limits with increasing clarity. It's as if your body has become a wise elder in its own right, guiding you to prioritize rest, comfort, and intentionality over external pressures. Yet, this shift can be invisible to others, leading to misunderstandings. Friends or family may notice you declining invitations or skipping events you once attended regularly. "You never come around anymore," they might say, or "Why don't you join us like you used to?" They don't see the internal calculus you're performing. Can you handle the drive across town, especially if traffic is heavy or parking is a hassle? Will the venue have comfortable seating, or will you be stuck on a hard chair that aggravates your arthritis? Are there stairs to navigate, or food that might upset your sensitive digestion? These considerations, which might seem minor to someone younger, become significant barriers after 70. They're not excuses, they're realities rooted in the physical changes of aging. Consider Barbara, a 78-year-old retired teacher who used to be the heart of her weekly coffee group. For years, she drove 20 minutes to the cafe, navigated a crowded parking lot, and sat on wobbly benches for hours, laughing and catching up with old friends. But over time, she noticed the outings left her physically sore and mentally drained. The joy of connection was overshadowed by aching joints, fatigue, and the lingering discomfort of sitting in an unforgiving chair. When she finally decided to step back, her friends were surprised, even a little hurt. One called her and said, "We miss you. Why don't you come anymore?" Barbara's response was both gentle and profound. "I miss me too, especially when I overdo it." Her decision wasn't about rejecting her friends, but about honoring her body's needs. She began inviting friends to her home instead, where she could control the environment. Comfortable chairs, food she could eat, and no long drives. This shift in how you manage physical energy also reflects a deeper psychological change, a growing unwillingness to endure discomfort for the sake of appearances. In your 40s or 50s, you might have powered through long conversations, ignored physical aches, or pushed past exhaustion to meet social expectations. But after 70, you become more selective. You start to prioritize outings that bring joy, meaning, or nourishment. Whether it's a quiet dinner with a loved one or a short walk in a place that feels rejuvenating. You're less willing to spend your limited energy on situations that leave you depleted, like sitting in an uncomfortable setting or navigating a challenging physical environment. This selectivity is a form of self-respect, a recognition that your energy is a sacred resource. It's about listening to your body's wisdom and making choices that align with its needs. Practical strategies can help. Plan outings for times of day when you feel most energetic, choose venues with accessibility in mind, or suggest shorter visits to conserve energy. By honoring these limits, you're not only preserving your physical health but also cultivating a deeper sense of self-worth. You're saying, "My energy matters, and I choose to spend it on what truly enriches my life." Choosing to stay home, opting for shorter visits, or declining invitations isn't about giving up or becoming reclusive. It's about wisdom in action. It's about recognizing that your body's fuel tank isn't what it used to be and that pretending otherwise only leads to burnout. By respecting your physical limits, you create space for a more intentional, fulfilling life, one where energy is spent on what truly matters. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Number 5. Emotional economy. As you navigate your later years, another profound shift emerges, a heightened awareness of the value of your emotional energy. This realization, often overlooked in youth, becomes a guiding principle after 70. Just as you wouldn't squander your savings on frivolous purchases, you begin to guard your emotional reserves with the same care, choosing to invest them in relationships and experiences that bring warmth, mutual respect, and genuine connection. This is the essence of emotional economy, a liberating truth that empowers you to prioritize your inner peace over draining or toxic interactions. For much of your life, you may have spent emotional energy freely, often at a cost to yourself. You tolerated behaviors that left you feeling diminished, biting your tongue during hurtful conversations, forgiving slights too quickly, or attending gatherings out of obligation, even when they left you feeling unseen, disrespected, or exhausted. You did this because you believed it was your role to keep the peace, maintain relationships, or avoid rocking the boat. You smiled through criticism, showed up despite emotional fatigue, and put others' needs ahead of your own, thinking it was the right thing to do. Society often reinforces this, praising those who are agreeable, accommodating, or endlessly forgiving. But after 70, a shift occurs. You realize that your emotional battery doesn't recharge as quickly as it once did. Negative interactions, a critical remark, a draining phone call, a tense family gathering, linger longer than they used to, leaving emotional residue that can take hours or days to dissipate. Stress hits harder, and the toll of carrying others' expectations becomes more apparent. This clarity brings a powerful permission slip, the right to say, "I don't need this in my life anymore." Whether it's a friend who constantly criticizes, a sibling who drains your spirit with complaints, or a neighbor who only calls to vent, you begin to choose peace over politeness, depth over drama. This isn't about becoming cold, distant, or uncaring. It's about becoming discerning. You start to invest your emotional energy in relationships that are reciprocal, uplifting, and grounded in mutual respect. You stop chasing people who don't return your calls or who take your presence for granted. You stop explaining yourself to those who never truly understood you. Instead, you treat your emotional world like a garden. You nurture the connections that bring joy and growth, and you gently weed out those that breed toxicity or leave you feeling empty. Consider Walter, an 82-year-old widower who spent years calling his son every Sunday, hoping to maintain a close bond. But the conversations were often one-sided, rushed, and laced with his son's dismissive or snide remarks. Each call left Walter feeling heavier, questioning his worth as a father. After months of this, he had an epiphany: this isn't love, it's duty. So he stopped calling, not to punish his son, but to protect his emotional well-being. Over time, he redirected that energy toward a neighbor who shared his passion for crossword puzzles and jazz music. Their conversations were light, engaging, and mutually enriching, leaving Walter feeling uplifted rather than depleted. This small shift brought him a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. Emotional economy is about recognizing that your emotional energy is a finite resource, just like your physical energy. It's about making intentional choices about where to spend it. Practical steps can support this. Set boundaries with people who drain you, such as limiting calls to a specific time or duration. Seek out relationships that feel balanced and supportive, and permit yourself to say no to invitations that feel more like obligations than opportunities for connection. These choices reflect a deeper psychological truth. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth or win approval. You know who you are, what you bring to relationships, and what you will no longer tolerate. This emotional wisdom is something younger people may struggle to fully grasp, as they're often caught in the whirlwind of social expectations and external validation. But after 70, it becomes crystal clear. You stop attending every argument you're invited to. You stop chasing love that feels like a one-way street. You stop pouring energy into people or situations that only bring chaos or discomfort. And in the quiet space that follows, you rediscover parts of yourself that were buried under years of emotional obligation. You learn what it feels like to breathe freely. No guilt, no drama, just peace. This shift is not selfish. It's a form of emotional survival. It's a recognition that your emotional well-being is a responsibility you owe to yourself. By protecting your inner peace, you create space for joy, authenticity, and meaningful connection. You become a curator of your emotional world, choosing quality over quantity and depth over superficiality. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Number 6. Self-respect awakening. In your later years, a quiet but seismic shift takes place. You stop seeking permission to value yourself. This is the self-respect awakening, a moment when the need to be liked, to please others, or to meet external expectations fades, replaced by a deep, instinctual drive to protect your dignity and honor your worth. This awakening doesn't arrive with fanfare or fireworks. It often emerges gradually, after one too many moments of being overlooked, dismissed, or taken for granted. But once it takes root, it transforms how you show up in the world, reshaping your relationships, choices, and sense of self. When you were younger, you may have equated kindness with compliance, believing that being good meant putting others' needs before your own. You went out of your way to help, even when it meant shrinking your desires. You downplayed your achievements to avoid making others feel small, said yes when you wanted to say no, and smoothed over conflicts to keep the peace. The cost of disappointing others felt too high, so you carried the burden of their expectations, often at the expense of your health, happiness, or sense of self. Society often reinforced this, praising those who were selfless, accommodating, or endlessly available. But after 70, the cost of betraying yourself becomes the greater concern. You begin to see through the illusions of people-pleasing and recognize that your time, energy, and dignity are too valuable to be spent on those who don't respect them. This awakening manifests in subtle but powerful ways. You decline invitations that feel like obligations rather than genuine opportunities for connection. You step away from conversations that drain your spirit or diminish your worth. You stop tolerating people who treat you as an afterthought, a convenience, or a backup plan. These choices aren't made out of anger or resentment. They're rooted in a deep self-love and an understanding that your worth is non-negotiable. This shift is driven by a profound realization. Peace is more important than popularity. There's a quiet power that emerges older, visible in the way you carry yourself. Your steady gaze, your calm demeanor, your refusal to shrink or apologize for your presence. It's not arrogance, it's earned self-respect. It's the culmination of decades of navigating challenges, enduring misunderstandings, and being told to settle down, not make a fuss, or just go along. It's the inner knowing that says, I've lived long enough to know what I deserve, and I'm no longer willing to settle for less. Consider Marilyn, a 76-year-old grandmother who spent most of her life as the family's go-to problem solver. She was the one everyone called for favors, babysitting grandkids, hosting holiday dinners, lending money, or organizing community events. She did it all, often sacrificing her health and happiness to keep everyone else comfortable. But a year ago, she reached a turning point. Exhausted by the constant demands, she declined to host the next big family gathering and instead took a solo weekend at a nearby lake, where she could read, walk, and simply be. Her daughter was stunned. "Mom, everyone's counting on you," she said. Marilyn's response was simple but powerful. "For once, I'm counting on me." That single decision reshaped her relationships. Her family began to respect her boundaries, and Marilyn discovered the freedom of honoring her own needs. She started saying no to requests that felt draining and yes to activities that brought her joy, like joining a book club or tending her garden. This self-respect awakening isn't about shutting people out. It's about teaching others how to treat you by how you treat yourself. When you stop begging for attention or settling for scraps of appreciation, people either rise to meet you or fall away, and either outcome is a victory because your worth no longer depends on their validation. This awakening also brings a newfound clarity about boundaries. You set them not out of anger but out of self-love. You realize that saying no is an act of courage, a declaration that your time and energy are sacred. Practical steps can support this. Communicate your boundaries clearly but kindly, such as letting loved ones know you need shorter visits or quieter settings. Prioritize activities that align with your values and bring you joy, and permit yourself to walk away from relationships or situations that consistently undermine your dignity. These choices reflect a deeper psychological truth. You've earned the right to stand confidently in your worth, without apology or explanation. There's a quiet power in this self-respect, a strength that younger people may not yet fully understand. It's the result of decades of being underestimated, misunderstood, or told to lower your expectations. It's the wisdom that comes from knowing you don't need to prove your value to anyone. By setting boundaries and prioritizing your dignity, you create space for a life that feels authentic, fulfilling, and free from the weight of others' expectations. Thank you for joining us today as we explored the 6 powerful reasons why many older adults choose to step back from social visits after 70. We hope these insights have shed light on the wisdom, clarity, and self-respect that come with this stage of life. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you've learned from this video, and how do you plan to bring it into practice in your own life? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your reflections inspire us and others in our community. If you like this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support helps us continue creating content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.